Hello everyone. In this video, I'm trying to cover the second lesson of India since independence, that is era of one-party dominance. In the last lesson, we've learned that there were three major challenges when India attained independence from British. One of those challenges that we discussed there was establishment of democracy. So in this lesson, era of one-party dominance, the main focus would be to understand how democracy was established and what was the process and what were the issues while doing so. The focus would be on this particular thing. So let's start with the lesson. So when India got independence, the interim government was uh, managing the affairs of the governance, and the first the interim prime minister at that point of time was Jawaharlal Nehru. And now, so uh, the discussion was that India was supposed to become a democratic country, whether it was constituent assembly or whether it was freedom struggle. The discussion was revolving mostly around this particular theme. So obviously elections should be conducted in this regard then. So the first elections that were conducted, and the preparation was happening regarding that. The first elections were conducted in 1951-52. It took a lot of time to manage the whole process. uh, the first general elections, like I said, were conducted in 1951 52. And the main challenge in conducting these elections was that it's a huge country, and there were a lot of illiterate people. So obviously there was a lot of criticism from the world around, or the leaders from across the world or the Western countries, that it's not going to be that easy. Many newly independent countries in Asia and Africa choose authoritarian governments or military rules instead of democracy at that point of time. And leaders in these countries believe that democracy could create divisions and instability. Now, however, Indian leaders decided to adopt a democracy despite a lot of differences, like in social differences or economic differences between people. And the leaders of freedom struggle or the Indian national movement, they believe that democratic politics is the best solution or the best way to resolve all these conflicts. Now, there was a unanimous discussion in the Constituent Assembly that universal adult franchise is going to be the way forward. Everyone above the age of 21 would be given the right to vote. So there was no little debate or argument regarding this particular thing in the Constituent Assembly. Now later on, this 21 years were changed to 18 years. Right now we have universal adult franchise from 18 and above. Now, this decision regarding universal adult franchise for 21 years and above was considered to be a revolutionary, because many voters in India were poor and illiterate. Around the same time in Europe, only those people who were paying taxes to the government and those people who were literate, they were given the opportunity to vote. But in India, that was not the case. Uh, Now, all this aside, there was this continuous fight to provide political equality, and to make sure that India becomes a true democracy here. Now, for all this to happen, for a true democracy to be established, universal adult franchise to function, all that, elections should be conducted first. So for this, or in this regard, an election commission was established. This election commission was established in January 1950, and it was responsible for organizing elections in India and maintaining the whole process. Now, the first chief election commissioner was Sukumar Sen, and he had this enormous task of preparing the country for its first democratic elections. And it was not an ordinary thing, it was an extraordinary effort to make sure that these elections are successful. Now, there were nearly 17 crore eligible voters across the country, and these 17 crore eligible voters had to elect for around 489 MPs for Lok Sabha and 3,200 MLAs across all the states of India around that particular time. And only 15% of those 17 crore people were literate. They know how to read and write. So it was a huge task, all in all. Now, the first challenge that this election commission faced was to create constituencies. Back then, there were no proper constituencies created. So, this was an administrative challenge. Now, all these constituencies had to be created, demarcated. So, for that, delimitation commission was created. And then the other challenge was voters list has to be created. Now, there were more than 3 lakh, election officials and polling staff who had to be trained for this particular process to make sure that the elections were smooth. Now, the first problem that these officers of election commission faced was that when they went for collecting the data from, the eligible 17 crore voters, majority of the women registered themselves as wife of, son of, daughter of, or they were not ready to disclose their own names. So election commission had to reject all these applications or names in no, they were not ready to take this as the voter id names. So they had to redo it once again. So that is the reason for the delay. Initially, the elections were supposed to happen in 1951, but then it extended till 1952. The reason is this. Now, this step made sure that the women were recognized as independent voters rather than registering themselves, with wife of, daughter of, something like that. Now, what was the method that this election commission chose? The method was very, very, very simple. Because majority of them were illiterate, separate ballot boxes had to be created for every candidate or every political party, with the symbol pasted on the ballot box, so that it's easier for every person to every person to vote whichever political candidate or political party that he wanted to vote for. He can just see that symbol on the ballot box and cast his vote inside, put his voter paper or into the box. It was easier through that. And nearly 20 lakh steel ballot boxes were used during this first elections. Now, another thing was the entire process of campaigning, polling, counting. It took almost around 6 months. More than half of the eligible voters participated in this election. The election was a huge success. There were roughly around 9 crore voters who voted in this election. We are not talking about this in 2026 or 2025. We're talking about this in 1951-52. Back then, it was a huge thing. And at the same time, when Western countries were criticizing India, that it would become a failed democracy or something like that. Like I said, the Western countries were making it as a joke. They said that this would be the biggest gamble in history, but then India proved it otherwise. They made sure that all this nonsense would be cut down, and they made sure that and this can be understood through one particular thing. The successful elections proved that democracy could work even in developing societies like that of India back then. Now, this is all the first topic. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is the Congress dominance. Why Congress was able to dominate until around late 1980s? The first thing. Second, how was its dominance? What was the scale of its dominance? These are the things that we would cover in this particular topic. The first election, like I said, it was for 489 seats in Lok Sabha and 3,200 MLAs in all the states. Now, Congress won 364 seats out of 489 seats in Lok Sabha. It is more than 70% seats, roughly around 70% seats. No other party came close to Congress party. The second largest political party was Communist Party, which was around 16 seats, 16 seats. And Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of India after this. Now, how was it able to dominate like this? It won 1951-52 elections. It won 1957 elections. It won 1962 elections. In all these elections, Congress was able to secure almost three-fourths of the seats in Lok Sabha, and and this is something, that is talked of even today. That kind of dominance was unheard of after this. Now, this establishes the era of one party dominance because no other party was coming close to it. Now, if you see what was the method that was implemented, it was the first past the post system. First past the post system is whichever candidate in a constituency gets more votes than all the other competing candidates, he would be declared as the winner. So that was the process that was used, and Congress got about 45% of the total votes polled, and it got 74% of the seats in 1952 elections. Now, Congress, Congress, many people, talk about Congress party with different kind of, different kinds of things. But one thing we have to understand is Congress was able to form governments in almost all the states of India, except for one or two states. It was able to dominate even in the state assembly elections in almost all the states. And in a few states, initially it had some trouble, but then, in the upcoming few elections, it was able to sort out this issue as well. Now, around the same particular time period in 1957, which is the second general elections, Communist Party in Kerala was able to form government, and EMS Namboodiripad became the chief minister of Kerala. Uh, and the thing is, like I said, Congress was dominating, but there are certain other negative things as well that Congress was doing around this particular time period. So the communist government in Kerala was starting with land reforms and reforms in education. So against this particular thing, Congress started protests, and there was a lot of law and order situation that was created by Congress party workers itself in the state of Kerala. So with this backdrop, the central government, using an article that says to take control of the law and order situation, they removed EMS Namboodiripad from his place, and president's rule was imposed there. And even that state that showed a lot of opposition to Congress party was no longer in power for not more than 2 years. In 1969, the elected government was toppled down by Congress party. Now, why Congress dominated? There are few simple reasons. First is the legacy of the national movement. Many Congress leaders participated in the freedom struggle. So people, people had a lot of emotional attachment with Congress leaders for that particular thing, that Congress was the political party that got India independence. So that's the first reason. The second reason is Congress had a very strong organizational structure. It had grassroots strength. Congress was was able to penetrate in almost all the villages. So that's the reason. The other reason is they had charismatic leaders like Nehru, like Sardar Patel. They had Indira Gandhi. They had Lal Bahadur Shastri. There are so many of them, right from north to south and east to west. They had a lot of charismatic leaders. Now let's look at what sort of dominance that Congress carried out. Congress was able to dominate because it was considered as a social coalition. It had multiple groups of people or representatives within its party, like peasants, representatives from peasant groups, representatives from workers groups, representatives from industrialist groups. It had professionals, it had middle class groups. Every literal group was represented by the Congress party leaders from within. So obviously people had no other choice but to vote for Congress because of their issues being represented by these leaders. from various groups. It was also an ideological coalition. Congress had left-leaning leaders, Congress had socialist leaders, Congress had conservative leaders, Congress had moderate leaders. Literally every literal ideology was within the Congress party. It was like an umbrella organization. The other thing is, there were a lot of factions within the party. Almost every leader had a group of followers within the party, and all of them were not going out and fighting. They were staying together within the party. So this is another thing. So everybody, though they had ideological differences, without going out from the party, they were staying within the party. So that helped the Congress party in getting the strength and support. Now let's look at the last topic for this lesson, that is the opposition parties. There were a lot of opposition parties around that particular time, though they did not show significant result in elections. There were a lot of political parties. There were a lot of small number of political parties who played a very key role or significant role here. And these political parties represented different ideological positions and social interests. Many modern political parties today trace their origins actually to these early opposition parties. Let's start with the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party was actually started by, uh, sorry, it was started by Acharya Narendra Dev, and it originated from Congress Socialist Party, which was formed in 1934. And uh, the whole thing is, they felt that the Socialist Party felt that Congress was going too much with or towards business classes, or it was representing the interests of landlords. So in opposition to this idea, the Socialist Party was formed for the welfare of for the welfare of poor people. But then in 1955, Congress declared socialism as its main agenda, and then people obviously would be looking at Congress rather than the Socialist Party, and Socialist Party slowly lost its relevance because of this particular thing. And many leaders who were criticizing Congress Party also distanced themselves from criticism, because Congress also adopted something called socialism as its agenda from then on. And the other party was Communist Party of India. The Communist Party of India was inspired by socialist and communist ideas from across the world, from Russia, from China. And initially it adopted a revolutionary approach. Later on, the party decided that they have to participate in democratic elections, and in 1952 elections it became the largest opposition party in Lok Sabha with 16 seats. That was the largest opposition party at that time. The other political party is Bharatiya Janasangh. Bharatiya Janasangh was founded by Shama Prasad Mukherjee in 1951. The party emphasized the idea of one nation, one culture, and strong national unity. It also supported policies that promoted Indian culture and traditions. The modern Bharatiya Janata Party traces its actual roots or origins to this party. Now, this is about the opposition parties that existed around 1950s. Now, the last topic is, what was the role of all these opposition parties in a democratic country like India back in 1950s, early 1950s and 1960s? Though they had limited electoral success, they played a very important role. They criticized the government for its policies and kept the ruling party accountable. They helped maintain democratic debate and political competition. Over time, these parties grew stronger and became important actors in Indian politics. Now, how was this one party dominance actually ended? See, over time, Congress found it increasingly difficult to accommodate all sorts of interests within the party. Internal conflicts and factionalism weakened the party organization. Opposition parties gradually got that strength in different regions, like that of DMK in Tamil Nadu, or AIDMK in Tamil Nadu, and Telugu Desam in Andhra Pradesh, and various other parties for that matter. This eventually led to the decline of Congress dominance after 1960s. So that's all for this particular lesson. Thank you.